Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center. And we just got in a big new batch of Chaves Ultramar knives, and you're going to want to check them out. Let's take a look. So first up, we've got the Ultramar Redencion Own Street, which is a hard-use, scaled-down version of Chaves' original Redencion folder. As soon as you hold that knife, you know it's substantial and it's built to take a beating. In order to achieve a lower price point than the full Chaves custom knives, these are made in China by Riot, but the fit and finish is impeccable. And yes, they still feature Chaves' signature skull pocket clip, meaning that even though these are fairly simple in profile, there's still that little extra touch that makes a statement when you're carrying it around. These latest versions feature a titanium frame lock with a bead blasted finish, as well as two different colors of micarta inlays, both a black and a green. We've also got two blade profiles available, a tanto as well as a drop point, and each of those blades is available either in a satin finish or a PVD black coated finish with a light stone washed texture. No matter which blade you choose, they're both made from S35 VN steel and feature compound grinds. Hollow here on the straight section with a flat grind on the belly, as well as a swedge along the spine. One notable place of improvement on these knives versus previous versions is they've really dialed in the detent on these knives. Where some of the previous ones might have been a little hard to open, these are tuned perfectly. Next up we have the Liberation. In terms of profile, it's sort of a slimmed down version of the Redencion, and it also adds a flipper opening mechanism. There's no thumb studs or jimping like there are on the Redencion, so you get a little bit of a smoother spine, and you get a simple flat ground drop point blade with this knife. Again, it's available in a satin finish or a black PVD stone washed finish, as well as two different color options for the micarta inlays. Like the Redencion, the handle on this is definitely chunky, not in a bad way mind you, but it's a little bit slimmer, which is going to make it fit in your pocket even better. We've got some nice chamfered edges all around the frame, which means it's not going to dig in too bad when you're putting it to work. The knife flips open very nicely, riding on a ball bearing pivot system. Last up we have the Sangra, a nice Wharncliffe profile, again available with two different blade finishes and two different micarta inlays. Whereas the frame on the Liberation is a scaled down version of the Redencion, the frame on this takes that even further by cutting the corner off here on the back, but you don't lose any amount of grip as a result. In my opinion, it actually feels even nicer by giving your pinky a nice place to rest when you're holding the blade. I especially like this nice angular treatment they've done to the spine of the Wharncliffe blade, and we've got a wickedly sharp point on this knife. You're going to be able to cut and pierce with this very efficiently. Another thing to note, there's a large choil on all of these knives, not big enough to fit your finger into, but it is going to make it very easy to keep these sharp along the entire length of the blade. So at first glance, these are definitely chunky, overbuilt folders, but there's a brain behind the brawn on these knives. If you look closer, there's a couple of nice details I'd like to show you. The first is the cutout for this lock bar, which is very finely machined. You don't get a lot of lost material in there, so you have a very fine seam, which is something that takes a lot of precision and expensive equipment to do well, and this knife has nailed it. You'll also note the position of the pivot, which is very close to the front of the handle scales, and that lock bar comes up right around it, meaning that when this knife is open, it eliminates one of the common areas for folding knives to actually lose some usability, because there's not as big of a gap from where your fingers rest to where the edge starts. That lack of wasted space is definitely appreciated when you're carrying it around all day, allowing you to get just as much edge as you possibly can out of a small frame. Overall, these Chaves Ultramar knives represent a great value, allowing you to get a full custom Chaves design without the full custom price. If you like what you see here and want to get your hands on one, make sure to click the link in the description below to head on over to KnifeCenter.com.